How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The following podcast is brought to you exclusively by the Rad Rob Radio Network.
Welcome to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. This podcast is hard-hitting, in-depth, cutting-edge look into the sport of bowling. You will get unfettered access into the mind of one of the most gifted bowlers of this generation, who just happens to be the son of a living legend. So, without further ado, let's introduce you to the host of the show, Rad Rob Francois, Dr. Ocho, and the incomparable Johnny Petraglia Jr.
Hey guys, welcome back to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. This is episode number 22, and I am your host, Rad Rob Francois. Joined by the man with the shiniest mask in bowling. He is the house hack of Straight Up 5. The man with the biggest bias. Well, I don't know if they're the biggest bias. We haven't measured, have we?
So measuring isn't really necessary. It's appearance.
Oh, right on.
You look goof on the T-Rex arms and everything, but guess what? And audio podcast people.
Dr. Tiberius Ocho III. How's it going, buddy?
Triceratops Ocho III.
My bad.
It's great. Where were we last week? What happened to you?
Multiple
myeloma? It better be multiple myeloma, which is a cancer, because if not, you're fucking the show up.
What about multiple sclerosis?
No, it should be singular sclerosis for you, because that's how bad you are.
That's true. No, multiple sicknesses going around the house. Wife had bronchitis, and she got the stomach flu. And the kid got the stomach flu, then I got it, so it was just...
They're telling you that so you leave them alone and freaking go somewhere. That's all, man. They're like, you should get a room for a month.
I literally told you in great detail on Monday night about my bowel movements, so you know what was going on.
Yeah, but that's you every day. Again, no change in you. It's everyone else, and they just want you out of the house for a bit. You just have to take the hints. We're more than just a bowling show. We try and, pinpoint what's going on in relationships, too.
We are also joined by the third man of the group, but it is his name on the marquee. It is the most handsome bowler in the world. Possibly has bigger biceps than Ocho. Like I said, we don't have an official measurement yet, but we'll get to the bottom of that.
And where does he measure from?
Well, do you start with the base
that's a
or
big
the
question.
The tip?
Do you measure from the
Yeah. Not sure.
I've never been a fan of measuring and shit. The same way I'm not a fan of when people ask me how much I bench. Like, what if I shoulder press more than I bench? I think it's a bad question. It's a bad stereotype. But anyway, back to the actual show. Hi guys. I'm very much looking forward to talking bowling this evening.
I bench an awful lot.
You probably bench a hell of a lot more than me. You got a
T-Rex arms.
I was going to say, you got a smaller wingspan. But, man, it works. It works.
Speaking of works, your microphone works that I sent you, so you finally don't sound like you're in a trash can.
Oh, you're such a weasel.
No, I'm going to fucking throw him under the bus. No, he is the most unprepared person in... I'm just fucking with him because I'm busting.
No, as a matter of fact, you couldn't have hit the nail more on the head.
And humble.
I'm thrilled that I was able to put it together. Actually, I needed help doing even that, but I got it done, and here we are. So
here we are. You sound great. The golden pipes of the chain-smoking Mr. Johnny Petraglia Jr. Good to have you here.
This is next. This is the next thing I'm dropping, just not tonight, obviously.
That's what she said.
Wow.
So what are we talking about tonight, Johnny? There's a lot that's happened in the last couple of weeks. We're not going to gloss over what happened while I was out, but there's some pretty big news. Let's start with the Hall of Fame before we get to the Tournament of Champions.
Sure.
The main star of the card was Wes Malott. Now, granted, I am the host of a bowling show that doesn't know shit about current bowling stars. I'm not familiar with him. So can you give him just give the fans a little bit of what his resume is, why he deserved to be in the PBA Hall of Fame?
Well, sure, absolutely. Wes Malott, aside from being just a wonderful human being in general, he's really one of the most genuine people you'll ever meet. He's they call him the Big Nasty. They should just call him the Big Teddy Bear. I mean, he's a family man. He's calm demeanor. He's always level-headed. He's a good man. But touring pros, I believe his opening year was 2001, so he's been out there just over 20 years. During that time, it used to be you were guaranteed in the Hall of Fame if you were a 10-time titleist. Well, Wes Malott has 10 titles as well as 2 majors. And a journeyman pro, he was also the defending king of bowling. And at that time, actually, even though they weren't considered legitimate televised 300s, he actually bowled 2 300s during the King of Bowling series powered by Amp energy drinks back when they were doing it, I want to say, around 2008 and 9. So he's a defending champ of the King of Bowling, the true King of Bowling. And again, 10 titles, 2 majors. And he's also won 2 PBA League events with the Portland Lumberjacks.
Oh, no kidding.
So very well-deserving in any way you look at it for superior performance as a professional. Very well-deserved. And it's no surprise that he went in. I believe this was his first year on the ballot, and it was unanimous. I think that's what Tom Clark said. But, congratulations to Wes, his lovely girlfriend, Sarah, who I've been friends with since I was in diapers, as well as my dad. And, awesome to see him make it in there. Initially what I did think to myself was like, when you think of Hall of Fame, even though 10 titles gets you in, typically when I think of Hall of Famers, I think of people with more titles than that. So at first I was kind of like, unanimous decision, I'm not sure. Like Pete Weber would be unanimous to me, or Walter Ray would be unanimous to me.
Is there, but the credentials or the resume may not, but you might know something different here.
Right. But either way, 10 titles, 2 majors, and all the achievements that we just listed. He was a staffer with Columbia for a long time, and I believe he's been with Storm and Rotogrip for several years now.
He was also on about a 3-year run where he was the best guy in the world too, right? I mean,
unstoppable.
Like the mid 00s, I feel like right around or right a little later than that. He was the guy that he made every show. Like if you count, like, because the resume doesn't show how many second places and how many televised shows, and that's what a lot of these things are based on. I think. The guys that get on TV are the guys that become at least well known. Plus, he was one of the guys that doesn't look at the dots like Ocho. He just kind of guesses where that shit's going and gives a little hand and says, all right, mother effer, here you go. I got my best. Where's your best?
You are spot on. It was definitely, I want to say 05, 6, 7, when virtually every week it was Wes Malott and Tommy Jones on the TV show or barking at the TV show. Not to mention they've been best of friends for all that time as well. But so you're spot on with the timing of when Wes was the most dominant force. I remember when Wes was just a young buck and he made a televised major in an arena throwing a Columbia Detour. So that had to be the time I was in college. So 04, 05, like you were just talking about. And I remember that being the first time I ever saw Wes on a television show. And it was also the last time I ever saw him visibly nervous on a television show. He clicked very, very quickly on tour and knew how to win instantly. And again, like we've talked in past shows, that's all from what's upstairs. And he's always had it between the ears.
So like the titles, 10 titles, well, he should be more, but like it wasn't that it was the titles. It was that he was literally a TV broacher every week, besides those 3 years, for the last 15, 18 years now, too.
Oh, yeah. Over the last 18 years, Wes has quickly become a household name in the bowling world.
For sure.
And because of not just his superior performance on the lanes, but just how genuine of a person he is out on tour. He's just the right guy to be in the Hall of Fame. That's the kind of person you think should be in the Hall of Fame.
People got to see that too. Remember, there was that thing with the what were them guys? The Tony Kornheiser and Wilbon when they were talking about the plastic ball tournament, and then he was trying to, because he didn't bowl in it or something like that, and it's not a big deal, but like Wilbon gave him a little bit of a hard time about it, which was great for bowling because it actually started sparking a debate. Like, here it is, pardon the interruption. They're talking, NFL and NHL, and then here's bowling on it. And then
Absolutely.
Michael Wilbon is on there, and who's giving him advice? Wes Malott, trying to teach him how to bowl. So you almost watch the guy grow up, even though he was such an adult as far as his stature. He was a young guy starting off, coming in like a house of fire, and then maturing in our very eyes too. And again, I was only a casual fan, and I still knew of it.
You're absolutely right. And then actually on one of the television shows, they had the match where Wes called out Wilbon and said,
he was like, where are you at, Wilbon? Shoe up. Come on, buddy.
And he did. Wilbon did. And that was awesome. And a newfound respect for the sport that we all love and admire was at least momentarily recognized in the quote unquote true sports world.
Hey, real quick, did Wilbon not have the wrong idea? Not to call him out, but like to say about the plastic ball, like, come on, this is how bowling was, or it was something along those lines. But
this is a great question, and this is one thing that I'll say that, and the reason why I respect Wes so much as a person. The whole reason that entire spiel happened was because during that time, the PBA introduced a tournament called the Plastic Ball Championship, which was my bread and butter tournament. It's the one tournament that I've bowled in my entire life that if I go to bowl that tournament, I think I can win. Period. Hands down. End of story.
Your dad at 70 finished top 10 almost. Like, that's how good that's how good you guys are.
What they did was, now remember, anybody that isn't 100% familiar with bowling, a plastic bowling ball has very little surface friction to it. So in other words, it's like a hockey puck on ice. It just hydroplanes on top of the lane. There's no gription to it whatsoever. Whereas a snow tire would dig through snow. Consider a plastic ball a ball tire that just keeps on spinning. Got it? Kind of like that concept. There's no engine. There's no core on the inside. And so the only thing you can do to hook a plastic ball is use your talent. And contrary to what you have to do with resin, where you lessen your hand at the bottom and don't touch it and let the ball take over, with plastic, you have to hit it. You have to grab it. You have to try and curve it a little bit. Because it won't react. Period. End of story. That's the way it goes. So what they did was they placed the Plastic Ball Championship a week before the U.S. Open.
That's what I remember. And it wasn't that he didn't want to bowl. It was the importance of the tournaments. Go ahead. Sorry. That's what I remember. Yeah, it wasn't. And Malott was saying, like, I'm not
sorry about that. Just had to wet my whistle.
No, you're good. He was like, I'm not discrediting any tournament. It could have been the skee ball tournament, and I wouldn't have bowled in it because of what was following the week. And these guys' hands are gonna hurt. Their thumbs, you could get blisters, calluses that you never had.
Absolutely, but it's not even just that. It's the tournament. The plastic ball, the year we're talking was the year that I finished 9th. I missed the show by 100 pins. It's the year.
You dick! Holy, I didn't even know you bowled in it. I'm an asshole.
You mentioned it. That was the year that my dad got the commissioner's
exemption. It was you
exemption.
and your dad. That's right.
Yeah, we both made match play that week. Yeah, and that tournament was in Babylon. I had asked Brunswick at the time I was working for Brunswick Corporate, and I asked them if I could take a week off and bowl in Babylon. And I bowled the PTQ. I made it through the tour qualifier because I wasn't an exempt player. And then I wound up qualifying in the top 32, which made it to the next 9 games of match play.
All right, take us back then. Tell us what the tour, because I totally fucking forgot, dude. And I remember seeing the scores, and like you guys were like behind each other by 1 or 2 positions only. So, all right, what's the tour what was the qualifier that you had to do to get in? How many bowlers and what did it take? Because there was a lot of amateurs listening.
The tour qualifier during the exempt tour years, typically, it was a 7-game qualifying block. 1 7-game block, you had a practice session just like the regular tournament would. And the week before that tournament, I was in Norwich, Connecticut on business, but there was also a tournament at Norwich 10-pin. And at the time, my good friend Matt O'Grady I said to him, I said, I'm going to be there at the same time as you. Just come stay with me. I have, a room from my company. I'm here on business, and I'll come ball rep for you. In other words, I'll come because that tournament in Norwich was on two different oil patterns. And
right. So you had to have a different array of equipment to deal with.
And Matt and I always got along as like Matt has always been more talented than me, but my brain and my eye for Matt's game, we were always a deadly combo. Yes, I'm a deadly caddy for Matt. So we're in Norwich, and during that week, Mark Sabatine, at that time the PBA lane man, I'm not sure if he still does it. I know he's still the foul line judge. He had put out the test pattern for what they were going to bowl on in Babylon the following week in Babylon, New York. And I didn't have any of my bowling stuff. I was there working. So Mark Sabatine is lefty, and he wears size 10s. And I said, let me try and squeeze into your shoes. I want to grab a plastic ball off the rack here, and I want to bowl on this pattern. They were putting out the shark pattern, which at that time was 47 feet.
That's the long pattern that there's no hooking or nothing. So
right. But what they did was they lowered the volume of the pattern. They lowered the amount of units per board to compensate for the plastic balls.
So the ball could grip a teensy bit, but it still ain't going to hook. I mean, it's still a long pattern.
Well, it did for me, hooking it.
Really?
I got in. I first figured, all right, let me throw a couple shots straight up 5, right up the first arrow. It's a plastic ball. Sailed, went 100 feet. I'm like, all right, let me move in.
Picked off the 7 pin.
I kept migrating right, and next thing you know, I'm standing around 25, 30 with my feet, which is a dot or two to the right of center, whether it's 25 or 30, throwing it over the third arrow out to about the second arrow. And I threw 16 strikes in a row in house shoes, or in Mark's shoes with a house ball.
A house bowling ball. And
Chuck Gardner, the Brunswick PBA tour rep, comes in up on the approach and he says, Junior, come here. Come here now. And I go, what's up, Chuck? He goes, you're bowling in Babylon next week. Let's go to the truck. And I said, Chuck, I don't have anything. He says, I'll make you some name shirts, and we're going to go drill you 3 plastic balls right now. Get on the truck.
Wow.
And
easiest drilling ever, too, because, I mean, this plastic balls, you only got to drill them 2 different ways, I feel like.
Remember, at that time, there was no rule against having not only a thumb hole, but you could also have a weight hole. You could have a thumb hole and a weight hole. Yeah. So he did one crazy layout on a Visiball, which is a slightly softer plastic ball, a generic one for me to shoot spares with, and then something kind of middle. I had 3 different plastic balls to go bowl this PTQ. And they have shoes on the truck. So I got a pair of shoes. They made me 2 jerseys. Now awesome. I call my friend.
Have your own shoes.
Listen, this gets better. I call my friend Stacy Brzezowski. She's in New Jersey. And I say, Stacy, you want to come watch me bowl a tournament? Great. You do? Drive out my bowling shoes. I can't wear these. She meets me in Babylon with the shoes. So I have my shoes.
How far of a drive is that? We're talking. It's about
2.5 hours.
Oh, okay. No, I don't know Babylon. I don't know. New York.
Long Island.
Oh, all right.
It's Long Island. It's Long Island.
If she's on the belt, though, it could be 6 hours. You never know.
Yeah, it could be. But coming from Jersey to there, it's not bad.
So she's doing you a solid, but it isn't the biggest. Okay.
I have regular clothes. She brings me bowling jerseys, my shoes. I don't need any bowling balls. I don't need fucking thumb tape. I just need my shit. I get the okay from work to bowl the next week. And Brunswick, as awesome as they are, says you can still file this as an expense report. You can still use this as a business trip because technically you're still in your area. Just make sure you say hello to the proprietor while you're there.
Wow.
And my dad's got the commissioner's exemption,
right.
So
and
he's already in the field.
You better mention us too, by the way. That's all.
Right. So dad is already also going to be there, and I'm coming from Norwich, and he's coming from New Jersey, so he gets there to watch the PTQ. And in the 7 games, there were 97 bowlers, and they took the top 12. I remember this like it was yesterday. I bowled 180, 190, 180, but I had a good look. I was just nervous. What was the number at that point? You were down, so you're down 100, 80, 90-ish maybe? No, 40.
right?
It took a 215 average over 7 games.
Okay, so you're
about 105 over
30 at this point. So you had to.
No, I'm like minus 40.
Yeah, minus 45-ish if you're doing 180, 190, 180. Yeah.
And then Chuck Gardner comes up to me and he says, "Stop. Just stop. Do what you did in Norwich for the next 4 games. Just do it right now."
So do you have that pink 15-pound plastic
He's
ball?
He's trying to tell me you're not in your dad's home state. There's not 1,000 people standing behind you watching you right now. Just go bowl. And I bowled 249, 258, 259, 258.
Wow.
And I averaged just over 220 for the PTQ, and I qualified 6th. Other names that I remember that made it through the PTQ that week that are recognizable names: Ryan Simonelli, the eventual champion of the event, Brian Zeisig. I don't know if you guys remember. This is the year that Brian Zeisig beat Jason Belmonte in the roll-off.
Yep.
It was Alex Cavagnaro, Bobby Hall II, Greg Kemp. I'm trying to think of the picture of the 12 of us standing there, but it was a good batch. There was a good batch of bowlers that made it out of
well deserved. It wasn't, and that's the thing about the plastic ball tournament. I almost feel like that shows the true athletic prowess of bowling by being able to. You want to stand in your spot, but the ball isn't working, so you switch balls. No, you actually have to move 3 boards to the right and turn your hand around it and make the ball do it, rather than which was your dad's philosophy from
crank the fuck out of it.
Bingo. And that's why him and I both love that tournament, because when you know that everybody is experiencing the exact same thing because they have the exact same tool
right there, man.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
There's nothing else. There is no 3 arrow jumps. It's little minute moves, like you just said. I gotta tilt it more. I gotta move a half board right. I gotta throw it a half mile an hour slower. The moves with a plastic bowling ball are so minute compared to resin bowling balls, even urethane balls. So this happens. I make it through the PTQ. It's the first time I've ever made it through a PTQ. So now we have 14 games of qualifying, 2 7-game blocks.
And your hand's okay at this point. It's only 7 games. Your fingers probably are a little burny a little bit, but like
my hands, ever since I took my thumb out of the ball, I never have any hand trouble whatsoever.
No shit. So even with your fingers, nothing, huh? Okay.
Ever. Nothing.
Right on.
I have I got good genes, I guess, but in my hand, I guess from baseball all those years and weightlifting, whatever I've got, I never have any hand trouble.
They're so built up that they're just pretty much ready for whatever attack you have on them, basically.
I guess so. So we now we go into the actual tournament, and now we bowl 14 games of qualifying, 2 7-game blocks. And I remember bowling well about the same way that I bowled in the PTQ. I went about 140 over for the first 7 games. And at that point, the field was 64 players. It was the 12 guys that made it through the PTQ and the 50 some odd exempt guys, or the 40 some, whatever it was. And okay, so I bowl. I'm 140 over through 7, go to break for lunch, and I'm in 28th place, 4 spots ahead of the cut, which was the top 32 after 14 games. I'm like, okay, I'm ahead of the scoring pace to make it.
That's where you want to be on day one, especially. You want to be there. You didn't lose it, so you're good.
I've already, at this point, I've gotten through the PTQ. I've not taken myself out of contention in the first round. Now I'm relaxed. Now I'm like, okay, I can do this. Let the
chips fall now.
And meanwhile, my dad, after day 1 of qualifying, is in 9th.
I remember he was way up there. I thought he was up in like 5th or 6th at one point, but that's
he may have been.
I'm going. Maybe it might not have been the first day, but he hovered in the top 10 the whole. And I'm like, this son of a bitch. The guy. Would you say it was 08? I think you said 08.
I want to say it was 2009 or 10.
Oh, okay, all right. So he's 60,
it was he's
65, 66.
Yeah.
I mean, like, dude, that doesn't happen on the ball you have. That's what the coolest thing was. And I remember you guys jockeying. I don't think you ever overtook them. No offense. But I just remember you guys were jockeying for a lot of that. And I think I lost interest after match play because the TV show didn't have you guys on it. It's no offense to anybody. It's just It's this round. So first round, eight games you said, and you're
7.
You're in 7 games. Oh, so it was 7 the whole time. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you
to this point, yes.
Before match play starts, exactly.
Correct. So now we go back for the second 7-game block, and I start out hot. I bowled 270, 240, 220. And now, with 4 games left, I'm in 16th. So now, I'm like, okay, I'm still going to stay aggressive, but I'm also going to make sure I make this number. I get a little more protective. I shoot maybe 20 or 30 over for the last 4 games. So I have another 150 over block.
What are you doing differently to stay just in play rather than trying to make a big number? Are you laying off the ball a little bit, or? That week I was watching Patrick Allen and Rhino Page. I watched them when they started to lose it, because those two guys, what they do whenever they need to control the hole, control the pocket, so to speak, they extend through it a little bit longer with their follow through. If you ever watch old videos of Rhino Page or Patrick Allen, they almost overextend their follow through. They really two
throw.
Lefties, by the way, for the people listening,
two completely different lefties. Just to make that perfectly clear. But you could see the reach of the cup of their elbow to try and get it through their target, just an extra smidge to basically avoid going through the nose. Like, if I'm going to miss
it and make sure it doesn't hit high and leave a mess. If you hit light, right, you're okay.
You're almost bowling at that point. It's like 9-pin no tap. You're trying to make sure that even if you bowl a bad game, it's going to be. Hang on, guys, my headphone fell out.
It's going to be a 199 at worst
instead of a 160.
Right.
You never want to cancel a 240 with a 160. You can deal with a 180 or a 190 because it's easy to bowl 220. But it's very hard to bowl
rather
240.
Than making a move to the right a little bit, because you said they're minute, and then over risking a washout or something.
Exactly.
They're staying straight in their spot and just extending to get the ball out a little longer to make sure it just doesn't. I got it. It makes sense.
Yeah, the term
so that's
was.
What you're saying, like, you're in play and you're not going to screw it up.
Right. The term was always, the more firm and forward you can be, the safer you are in a pressure situation. The more territory you're covering, the more problems can occur. So I remember, because Patrick was on my left and Rhino was on my right, and I just remember saying, you're ahead of Patrick right now. You're ahead of Patrick Allen. He's one of the best bowlers that's ever lived. You're ahead of him. Just mimic him right now. Mimic him, and you'll stay ahead of him. And when all the dust settled, I went like plus 270 or 280 for the 14 games, and I qualified 28th. I legit stayed exactly at 28th, steady Eddie, consistent. And at the end of qualifying, my dad qualified, I believe, 9th. So earlier, Oach, when you said 5th or 6th, I think my dad was as high as 5th or 6th. But after the completion of the 14 games of qualifying, my dad qualified 9th, and I qualified 28th.
Yeah, it could have been during, or it could have been the next day even, during a match play thing or something that I saw. But I got you.
So now I go back to my hotel room. My friend Stacy, who brought my clothes for me, she's staying with me. And at that time, I was rooming with my buddy Brian Paul, who's still a great friend back from Brooklyn. Brian Paul also made it that week. I don't think he didn't make match play, but he did make it out of the PTQ with us. So needless to say, that was the first time I'd ever made it to match play. That was a really enjoyable night. We sang karaoke in the bar. The hotel was right up the street. Everything was wonderful. At that time, the streaming provider for the PBA was Extra Frame. And I'll never forget it, because the way the pairings work for game 1 of match play goes by seeding. And however the seeding worked, the first game of my match play career at the professional level, Babylon Lanes had 30 lanes, then a walkway down the middle to the back of the building where there was parking. And in between that walkway went lanes 31 to 60. So 29 and 30 was right against the walkway ramp that we would come in. And I remember walking in with my bowling bag up that alleyway. So I'm looking at the crowd, and now the pins are behind me as I'm coming in. And I see, Rob, there had to be, it was as big as the crowd was at the Tournament of Champions this week, all hovering right behind 29 and 30. And I'm like, what are all these people doing?
Was it you and your dad, I guess, on the same freaking
Petraglia Jr.
Holy
Game
shit.
1 of match play on the extra frame pair on Long Island in New York. That's my first fucking match play match ever.
Wow.
How bad did he crush you? I don't mean it like that. I'm just being a dick.
I bowled my lowest game of the tournament, which was 171. I left a Brooklyn 5-7. I missed a 7-pin. I was shitting my fucking brains out. I bowl 170. My dad bowls 2-0. He comes up to me, gives me a hug. He says, John, I'm sorry. I said, don't be sorry. You better just keep winning.
Dude, how weird is that? Like, I mean, it's not like, because it's your father, you're the son. Like, it's not like he's gonna. And
I'm in my father's temple.
Yeah, right. That's his domain.
That's his temple.
And I almost wonder, like, was he like, I can't get upstaged by my son? And not that he would think that, but like, I'm still Johnny fucking Petraglia. So I almost won, because you said he bowled 2-0. That's a good score. You bowling 170 didn't help.
Yeah, I think he bowled 2-0 because he wanted me to bowl 2-0. I think he was trying to time me.
Saying, like, just let's go hand in hand with this, because it wasn't like he was like, hey, move a board left or something like that. It's still a tournament.
Yeah,
like,
I can never beat my dad though. Like, my dad was a bowler too. He wasn't as good as me, but I can never beat him because he had that psychological advantage over me.
Absolutely.
Your dad also wasn't Johnny Petraglia, dude.
No, but I mean, it's just it's still the same.
Hey,
principle.
listen, I anybody can relate to that story at this point. And no matter who you are, I don't give a fuck who you are. If you feel a certain way about somebody, and honestly, hell yeah, I totally get it, Rad Rob, for sure.
How nervous were you? Not like
in that game. In that game, the best way I can explain it is this. Have you ever been in the middle of doing something that you've done a million times and I physically couldn't get to the foul line? My legs were so rubbery that I felt like if I didn't focus on not falling down, that I would legit just collapse in my third step. That's what I felt like Jello. I felt like I went on a binge drinking fest for a week straight with no food and no water, and then tried to recover in 6 hours to go to an interview.
Technically, 170 ain't a bad number with
it isn't.
that scenario.
Yeah, but
pattern with a plastic ball.
But here's what it did do. So now my dad wins the match, and in match play you get 30 bonus pins. So what we're doing now is round 1 of match play is 9 games. You bowl 9 head-to-head matches, 30 bonus pins if you win your match, 15 if you tie, nothing if you lose. So I bowl 170. I drop 30 pins. I drop to 31st out of 32 guys. My dad is still hovering around somewhere in the top 10 at this point. I have nothing left to lose at this point, and I have nothing to be nervous about. And I went on the tear of my life in the next 8 games. I bowled Patrick Allen game 2. I go spare, double, spare. Patrick goes front 7, spare. So he can strike out for 268. I can get up in the 9th and 10th. I finish the game first. I can shoot 269. I throw all 4 of them. I bowl 269. That's 99 pins with the bonus. I go from 31st to 24th.
Wow.
The next match, I bowled Lonnie Wallachek. I bowled 279. Then I bowled Bill O'Neill. I shot 258.
Jesus.
Then I lost to Chris Barnes because I left a bucket on the fill ball. He beat me 226, 224.
Oh, that hurts.
I choked against Chris.
Yeah.
And then the next match, I bowled 289 against Walter Ray, and he 8-10s in the 10th frame. I'll never forget it. He 8-10. But the next thing you know, I wind up going like 300 over for the next 8 games and winning.
Wait, hold on. You bowled 289, but Walter Ray 8-10. What was he?
That's all I remember was
so
Walter Ray left 8-10.
Okay, all right.
I was like, Walter Ray he just 8-10 to get.
If he lives in 8-10 to shoot 280, 278.
No. He bowled like a 230, but he
okay,
did.
All right. Okay.
And when he 8-10, my swing just freed the fuck up.
But dude,
That makes it. Oh, it was earlier in the game.
Yeah, it was about the fifth frame. He had gone double, spare, double, and I had all of them. And I'm this is the best bowler in the world, and he's one hit away from me right now.
I was gonna say, dude, like no matter what you do the rest of your life, like you can say I beat fucking Walter Ray Williams.
The best guys in the world,
right?
Dude. Holy shit!
I mean, that's awesome,
plastic ball.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so now, look. So now,
in this road here too.
Yeah.
When the dust settles after these 9 games, now they're cutting to the top 16. Well, I went from 31st to 11th, and now with 9 games left, I'm 78 pins out of the show. Now we have like a 3-hour break, and I go to lunch with Bill O'Neill, Martin Larson, Jason Belmonte, Bobby Hall, and Ryan Simonelli. We go to Chili's. And Joe Stillman. I don't know if you guys know who Joe Stillman is. I don't even know why he was there, but I remember being in Chili's with that group across from Simonelli, and Ryan saying to me, "So you nervous? You haven't touched your Texas cheese fries."
I knew you had cheese fries. I was gonna fucking say that, dude. I swear to God, that was in my head, Oach. I'm telling you.
I ate the first batch with all the shit on it. Yes. And I'm looking at this table and I'm listening to what Bill O'Neill's talking to Belmo about and all this shit. And I go, "I'll be right back. I gotta go." And I go to the bathroom, puke my fucking brains out.
Oh my God.
Puke my fucking brains out. Because now at this point, my dad had fallen off. You know, his age really started to show. Mm-hmm. He wound up finishing around 20th. No, I'm sorry.
I'm telling you, he finished higher than that.
He made it. He made it. No, he did not make the top 16. He did not make the top 16.
Are you sure? Then I'm thinking of the wrong year then, but because he always was up there with that.
I'm almost positive he didn't make the top 16.
I do trust your brain, too, because you're as good as me.
But anyway, when all the dust settled after the next 9 games, I performed as best as I could. I would think my final match play record was, I think I went 11-8. Well, what was it, 18 games? Or 11-7, or something like that. 11-7, which is, a good match play record. And I missed the show by 100 pins. And I finished 9th, and I got a $3,800 paycheck. And I got, just the way it all transpired, the way it all happened, it was just the greatest. Oach, what you're talking about is the following year in Cheektowaga when my dad finished way up.
In New York, in upstate New York.
In upstate, yes, that's the following year that Jason Couch won. You're thinking, this is the year before. This is the year, again, that Brian Zeisig wound up beating Jason Belmonte in a roll-off. But yeah, that was... I remember when that tournament was over because they were setting up the stage for the TV show. And I remember going and sitting in the chair that all the legends, so all the bowlers sit in, on the TV show and looking at the TV set and crying, but like happily crying. And I remember Stacy walking over to me and a good friend for a long time and just saying, "Soon, it's coming. It's coming." And she took a picture of me sitting in the chair. She also snapped some pictures of Petraglia Jr. when we were warming up and all that. It was, and to do it at home, it was just the greatest, one of the greatest.
How were you mentally, like the grind of it? Because again, it's still, it's the plastic ball. This is all you have to use, and maybe it is easier for you because it's the only ball you have to use. There's so less thinking, but like. That's a lot of games, man. It was 40 games, 38 games, maybe. Yeah, something like that. So, like, I mean,
I'll tell you what it is for me.
Over the course of the games, you go home, you're going to sleep, and like it's like what's in your head? The adrenaline dump after playing pop on fucking extra frame,
I'll tell you, for me, and anybody that's an athlete can probably relate to this in some way. Okay, here's a great example. If I go out and play golf with 3 of my buddies and they all suck, I don't play well.
You're down to your competition for sure.
Yeah, but if you put me in a foursome with Fred Couples, Tiger Woods, and Bryson DeChambeau, I may be nervous for a few holes, but I'm going to shoot one of the best rounds of my life. They elevate you.
Yes, 100%.
That's why I've always said, anybody that's successful in this world follows people that are successful.
That's how people get better. That's the only way you can.
That's
by being around
exactly
people
right.
who are better. That's the only way to learn. But
so
I mean,
just
still, like,
the
at
little
the end, like, were you like, did you sleep so good that night because you were fried, or were you like, man, I left something out? I know. I'm trying to go a little deeper. I feel like, but like, I gotta feel like that was a victory in itself, but you knew you had more in the tank. So it's like, was there like a tweener about you almost?
Yes, there was. To this day, even though I don't put forth the effort at that level, and I always say I would rather be doing something else, my heart lives for that. It lives for that zone that I was in, because whenever my brain is happy, everybody else around me is happy, because all I want to do is be happy. And that week, talking myself through that tournament with the people that I had the privilege to talk to, like changing my shoes in the locker room, and Mike Fagan wants to come up to me and say, dude, it's come a long way since JBT's, bro. Keep it up. Like little things like that were the things that I took away more than the finish, or more than the heartache of just missing.
But look how you detailed it too. You were able to almost go like hour by hour of that week. I know there's no way you're going to do that 5 weeks ago. I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, like, that was a time where you were so tuned in that everything was so locked in that you can recall it. And the first thing you said was, I remember it like it was yesterday. When I asked you about that PTQ, I think, did I get the right letters?
Mm-hmm.
PTQ. All right. So, and you had the score, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, right. What I mean, who knows? BRB, all that shit. But that was, that you were that zoned in that it's still tucked away, that you can recall it, which it's fun to see the importance of it, what it meant to you. But yeah, I was curious if like if you got home and slept for like a day and a half because you were so spent from none of that. You weren't even going to be there. You were just goofing off. Hey,
no,
I got bowling shoes and fucking a house ball, and now I'm just going to goof off on a shark pattern. You know what I mean?
No, I'll tell you what happened was, because eventually after I parted with Brunswick Corporate, directing capital for the Northeast, I got a job with Ace Mitchell. And Ace Mitchell's a bowler supply company based out of Ohio, but they had an extension on Long Island. And Brian Zeisig ran Ace Mitchell directly under Peter Hakem, my dad's lifelong friend.
The guy who won the tournament.
The guy who bowled the PTQ just like me in his home city. Mm-hmm. So like when Brian Zeisig won, me, and like 15 other people, we just bopped around to all the local pubs that he knew everybody at. That was more fun than bowling the tournament, being out with the champ, in his hometown.
So that was your blow off then too, technically. I don't mean blow off. But like,
yeah, exactly. You
got to take the lid off the freaking cap, basically.
I didn't go back to my hotel room and sulk about it. If I'd have thrown this double, if I would have not missed this spare, or
just been so mentally beat that you just racked out for a day and a half and then woke up on like Thursday and be like, oh my God, I need to shave. You know what I mean? Like,
no, that didn't happen, because the next week I had to go right back to work. I had to keep traveling.
True.
I found a laundry service while I was there, and then I think the next week I was in New Hampshire for Steve Hardy's event.
That's how you got the write-off, because you were still doing all your work.
Yeah, I got the write-off. I bowled, and I did all of that for free, How
about that? We talked about the TOC, and here's what we got.
Yeah. So, but it's crazy. This whole convo spawned from us mentioning the recent Hall of Famer Wes Millard, and
that's exactly. Oh shit, that's right. Because it was on the plastic ball tournament. Oh my God, that's on me.
So real quick, we've told you everything about the plastic ball event. So the next week is the U.S. Open in North Brunswick, New Jersey. I'm sorry, I didn't go to New Hampshire. I went home, and I borrowed my friend Sharon's motorhome at the U.S. Open the following week. And I didn't bowl, but I just parked the motorhome and fucking partied with everybody. Shit. I fucking hooked up to the back of Carolier and had fucking parties every night.
How did I miss that? That's bullshit.
Yeah, that's what I did with the next week. But anyway, Wes didn't bowl the plastic ball. He didn't bowl it because he said first place this week is 35,000, 40,000. Next week at the U.S. Open, it's 100. And he says, I'm not going to get my game in a rhythm of grabbing it at the bottom, having to soften the speed and do all this when next week I have to execute every single frame perfectly just to average 212. And I want that 100 grand more than I want this 30 or this 45 or this 40 grand. Wes is so logical. He does, and most people are emotional. Wes's logic bothers people. It bothers people that he's so logical and he's so relaxed while he does it. And he simply said, I didn't like the placement of the event. I didn't like the fact that they put a tournament where you have to do this right before a tournament where you must do this. And if you don't go into the US Open knowing exactly what has to be done to a bowling ball at the bottom, you can't win the US Open. Period. It just can't happen.
To his own detriment, if he wasn't the best player for those couple years, like, again, the guy had a run, it would have never happened. They wouldn't have said, hey, Scooch and Lingotz is taking off for the plastic ball tournament. They're saying Wes Malott, the guy who you said the King of the Ring gimmick thing or whatever, might not have been around at the same time. I'm not even sure, but it sounds like it.
Yeah, exactly. This is, I believe this is, it's around the same time the King of Ball. Yeah, it's close. But yes, so people like shit on Wes about that. I'm like, the fucking guy chose not to bowl a tournament for a dead serious reason, for his livelihood, for his career, for his family. What are you guys giving him shit about?
Yeah, and again, we're not talking millions of dollars here with these. That's the other issue. Like, there's a legit financial cap on this thing. You really have to, manage it accordingly to where you're going to succeed. You're right. He got flack for what he shouldn't have, and he made more sense. And now when you look back on it, you're like, of course he did. Why wouldn't you have?
All right, let's switch to the PBA Tournament of Champions, which happened this past week. We all watched the event. It was a great event. And speaking of Wes Malott, he actually finished 12th. So, I mean, he's still at the top of his game. Still got a lot of, left in the tank. And he's, 44, 45? I think he was born in 76. Yeah, his stats says he's...
So he's your age, Rod.
October 76. So, yeah, he's... dude, my tank is huge.
Is there anything left in it?
October 26,
There's some Popeyes left in it.
1976. October 26, 1976. He's 45.
So he's not that old. He's not old enough for the PBA tour or the senior tour yet. So, see, that's like just to segue back from the to the Hall of Fame again. When I think of Hall of Famers, I think of the previous generation, like your dad, Norm Duke, Walter Ray, guys like that. I don't think of a 45-year-old guy, in the Hall of Fame yet. Like, that should be something like after they retire. Like,
I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Because you were a kid watching. So, like, even as you grew up, they were already old. So now here's a guy, you're contemporary. Right. I get that. And it's almost like, should they be in until after
like 10 years after they retire or something like that, or 5 years? Right.
I get what you're saying, if that's where you're going.
Mm-hmm. No, that's where I was going.
You can't really look at it that way. I mean, my dad was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1982.
True. Yeah.
So he's 35.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's, it's your years on tour that really mean something. It's not like you have to be a certain age to be the president of the United States or anything like that. I mean, Jason Belmonte, how is he not Hall of Famer? He's older than me.
Yeah, why is what's the eligibility criteria, JP? I don't mean like the 10 titles.
It used to be 10 titles, and I believe you went on the ballot at the age of 35. That's what I believe. But maybe it's changed because Wes Malott had Hall of Fame. He's had Hall of Fame credentials for the last 10 years, Wes has. Yeah. So I'm not really sure. Maybe they've changed the credentials. I don't want to give any false info. I don't really know.
But what if Belmo's saying, screw that? I have freaking 15 years left. Don't even count me on. Like, is there a choice where you can say, don't put me on there? Like, is that a possibility?
No,
they would put you on regard. Okay, because
I think so.
Well, maybe I'm just conditioned to other sports where you have to actually be retired and be out of the game for a while.
5 years or something like that,
right before you get inducted, and not while you're a current athlete or performer or whatnot. So I mean, maybe it's just my way of looking at it, but I mean, Would you want PBA to change that and just, not induct people unless they're out of the sport or, at least retired for 5 years?
No, I think excuse me, a little belch there. I think the PBA has done a great job as far as the Hall of Fame. Okay. I think that the whatever process they use, it works. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, you guys were talking so much, I didn't have a chance to ask any fucking questions at all. So
I sincerely apologize.
Your mic wasn't off. What the fuck? You can jump in. Like, who's saying you can't talk?
You guys are having great conversation between two good friends. I didn't want to interrupt it because you guys were in a good place.
Between two amazing bowlers, maybe.
You guys were in the pocket. I didn't want to fucking interrupt it. But one more thing, Johnny.
Now let's.
One more thing about your plastic ball tournament, because again, I didn't have a chance to interject. So, do you regret? I don't want to say being too tight in the beginning, throwing 180, 190, 180. Change one of those games, you qualify. You know what I mean? Like, you make the top 5 or 6 or whatever it is. Like, do you regret just?
No, because
wait, can you even count a game on day one to say I qualified?
The PTQ, your scores are dropped.
Okay, so it doesn't roll over then. Okay, all right. That's
because now you're entering the main field of the tournament.
I gotcha. Okay, all right. So it has nothing to do with it then.
But honestly, Rob, I will follow up with that, and I'll tell you this. I wouldn't trade in that 180, 190, 190 for anything because, like I've said a million times on this show, I do better when I have nothing or when my back's against the wall.
Right.
When I have no other out, that's when I perform my best. When I have everything, it's like a subconscious issue I have in my brain where I need to lose it.
Okay.
Like if I have $5,000 in the bank, I won't make that money make me money. I'll go take it and I'll go gamble it. It's been my biggest vice since I'm 20 years old. But if I have $5 in the bank, I'll figure out a way to make $5,000 to put it in the bank. Does that make sense?
I'm muting Ocho because I want to fucking talk. You've had your goddamn time, Ocho. You can say
but that's a law of averages thing right there. So that's where so if you shoot 260, 280, 279, already in your mind you're thinking law of averages.
Mm-hmm. So I become complacent.
It's a detriment rather than an enhancement.
Right. But if I know I need to average 279, I'll average 279.
There you go. Exactly. Because you have to, not because I
Rob,
have to keep doing it.
But what? So that's my brain, and that's honestly why I've always had a hard time competing at the professional level. I have the talent, I have the skill. I'm as talented as anybody I've ever seen. I mean, I look at videos of myself and I look at videos of other people. I know what I look like. I know how I throw the ball.
Right.
But when I get out there, if you told me that every week I showed up to league and I missed the first game and I got a 0, so now I have to bowl 300 twice to go even or plus for the day, I'll do it.
Right.
I'll do it. But if I go there and I'm like, okay, I'm stone sober, I'm going to do this, I'm going to focus, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fuck. The first time, my hands are sweating, my knees are shaking. Even in league, I like having no other option.
Wall, basically, you need to have your back up against the wall. You're the guy who studies the night before the test because there's no other option. You're the guy that's going to, the report's due tomorrow. Well, I'm going to start now, and it's going to come in grade A. But that's the one time you're going to focus in and only do that for those 8 hours. And there's a lot of people like that. And that's what drives some people. Some people prepare so much that they don't know what to do with themselves either. So you're on to something.
So when you're talking about having to kind of hang around the cut and try to change your game a little bit and be a little bit safer, I'd almost equate that to like poker, like the World Series of Poker, where you're hanging around the cash bubble and nobody wants to take any fucking chances. Everybody starts playing tight. Nobody wants to fucking play loose or go all in because they don't want to be that guy that doesn't make the fucking money. So that's almost the same kind of scenario where you just have to play it really safe and not do anything fucking stupid or go overboard or, try to really, try to throw a strike. You just want to do enough to fucking hang around, that qualifying bubble. Is that kind of the same thing?
Yes, and it's the reason why I have a hard time becoming a champion. Yeah. Because champions don't think that way.
Right.
You want to go at it.
Yeah. Champions say, I'm up by 50. Now it's time to step on his throat, be up by 100. And I get like that. And I mean, I'm not condoning alcohol or marijuana use, especially the kids that are listening. But for me, what happens is when I am inebriated to some extent, everything shuts off and I just bowl.
Yeah.
So I wish I could bowl drunk in a PBA event just to see what would end up happening. You know, I've averaged over 230 for 20 years. For 20 years. And half those years, I don't even remember being in the building, let alone bowling.
You can't go smoke a bowl in the car and come back?
No, I smoke before I go in, and then I get drunk while I'm in there. Gotcha. That's usually what happens.
He's saying if you went to a PBA event, like you couldn't friggin' bowl.
No, I'm never, because I was, you know,
you're brought up.
I have a legendary father in this game, guys, and one thing that he's always done is he's always been like Dick Weber. He's always been a class act. He has a reputation in the bowling world, and it's
time to start being Pete Weber for you, man. Come on.
At least
work for him.
How to win, and Pete's one of the best fucking talents that's ever walked this fucking planet.
That's the thing. We don't know if you know how to win because you haven't put yourself in that position. You could, but I'm talking, you know, almost scenario like, because we know like you're into physique, you're into bodybuilding, your body is different from bowling now. We get that. So there'd be a lot of changes that would have to be made, and you'd have to alter your entire lifestyle, which isn't you anymore.
Right.
So we get that. But it would have been fun to watch.
It would have been nice to just go on a fucking 7-day bender and just fucking hammer it. You know, just fucking.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I make it to 50, which, you know, that's up in the air, I'll definitely bowl on the senior tour.
Nice. Good deal.
But I'll still be bowling against the same fucking guys I couldn't beat 10
yeah, but who cares?
So what's the difference?
I'm only a year and a half away. Shit.
But Rob, really, like, truth be told, that is something, as I've matured over the years, I've learned about myself.
Right.
I don't like having options.
Yeah.
I as good as I am at multitasking, I'm horrible at multitasking. In other words, I can do bacon, eggs, toast, grill a steak, marinate this, but I can do all of that at the same time and nothing ever gets burnt, ever. But if I'm talking to you guys and I hear somebody whistling outside my front door, whatever we're talking about, I can't hear you anymore because all I hear is that whistle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's that contradictory in my brain.
I get that.
That's what happens.
I'm the same way when it comes to that. Final question before we move on to Tournament Champions finally. Did you end up eating after you threw up?
I don't remember.
The cheese fries. You don't remember?
I don't remember. Fuck. I remember I came back and maybe had another bite or two. I remember Bobby Hall was playing the big Buck Hunter machine. Remember that fucking game?
Yeah.
And he kept coming back to the table and saying, man, I couldn't hit the fucking vitals, man. I couldn't hit the vitals. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? That's the last thing I remember.
You know, maybe that's where COVID started, was all those idiots putting a freaking gun up to their face and licking it,
right,
and shooting it, and then having another stranger lick the gun and shoot it the same way.
Yeah, it must be.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no,
Patient zero.
It's funny. I knew you're going to the cheese fries, man. I'm a food psychic. Ask Ocho. If it's about
They're
food,
so good,
food
man.
and booze, actually.
So
Damnedest thing.
Yep.
So, I got a couple food items from select places that I just cannot live without. And Texas cheese fries from Chili's or a bloomin' onion from Outback are two of them.
Yeah, they both give me the
shits,
and
make sure you order honey butter, not the regular butter with that pumpernickel bread. Oh my god. Anyway, Tournament Champions.
Tournament of Champions. Do you want to break down the stepladder? We'll go.
I actually would love to.
Okay.
I mean, I was so into this event because I love the fact that it was held at Riviera Lanes where my dad won in 1971.
Yep.
I love the history of that building. I love seeing the crowds that showed up, man. Like I've said in past broadcasts with you guys, if you're in Ohio, you know, Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan, if you're somewhere in there, man, bowling is life, and it still is. And it was so awesome to see that many people in that building on that show. It was absolutely awesome to see. So just goes to show you, as much as I say and as much as we see bowling alleys closing and this and that and memberships going down, bowling is still alive and well, and that's why we're all kind of here, right?
No, that's exactly right. Back in the day, Tournament Champion was mostly sponsored by Firestone, and it was typically the last tournament of the year. When did that change? When did they make it so it's not the final event? Do you recall?
I don't remember the last year of the Firestone. I know that it was the Brunswick World Tournament of Champions in like the late 90s, 97, 98. I know H&R Block took over the title sponsorship the year that Michael Haugen beat Chris Barnes was at 2008. So there have been a couple different title sponsors for the Tournament of Champions. I don't actually remember who sponsored it this year. Let's see, Kia.
But do you remember when they turned it around though and didn't make it the final stop on the tour?
I want to say right around the time of the Exempt Tour because they made the World Championship the pinnacle event of the year, which is the old national championship.
Right, okay.
When Steve Miller took over the PBA with the Exempt Tour in 02, 03, that was the time I believe that all roads end at the World Championship. That was when they put more emphasis on that event because they had a point system. They had like the Super 16 and all this shit. So that's when I think. And then they started allowing non-PBA champions to bowl. For instance, I love her to death. She's one of the best fucking women that's ever fucking walked the planet when it comes to fucking bowling. But Kelly Kulick won the Tournament of Champions, but doesn't have a PBA title. It used to be 63 invited professionals plus last year's champion. The field is 64. It's the easiest and hardest tournament to win. You got to beat the least amount of guys, but the best talent in the world.
Right.
Nothing but PBA champions.
Yeah.
And then they opened it up to regional champions, and now there's a PTQ for the TSC and all that stuff. So I don't really know enough about it to elaborate on it, but I do know as much as I just told you.
Gotcha. Our first match in the stepladder finals was Sean Maldonado taking on Tommy Jones. What was your analysis of this match?
In the position round, Tommy Jones was in second place. He bowled so incredibly for the entire week. It was, hang on, I lost a headphone. It was so amazing to watch because Tommy Jones is bowling like 05, 06 Tommy Jones again, because now not only is Tommy one of the best bowlers that's ever walked the planet, Tommy is reaching the age now that killer instinct that he's always had, and now he's smart also, which is a fucking deadly combination, right?
He said he kind of switched things up a little bit about, he started paying attention. He was like, I was the young guy on here back, like you said, 05-ish, running rampant. And now I'm watching these young guys and I'm like, dude, I got to make some changes. And he did it. That's freaking badass.
That's
like
Walter
you already,
Ray. You know what
mentality. You know what you got to, and now you're going for it and you're adapting. Walter Ray did it. Man, Pete did it.
Absolutely.
We said the same fucking time. How about that? Go ahead, man.
Your buddy Anthony Simonson finished just out in sixth. So
what a great week for him too, man.
Yeah, he's on a hell of a run.
And
your other friend.
Oh, that's what you guys were supposed to talk about, wasn't it? Last week was the fucking tournament he won. You assholes.
That's okay. We're on the TSC this week.
And Andrew Anderson, your friend, was smoking it early.
Friend of the show.
Ended up finishing 18th, but he's on a really good run too. Just can't quite get there, but his brother keeps reporting on Facebook about how Andrew's doing.
Absolutely.
So I mean he's bowling really well. Hopefully he can dial
Not
it
on
in.
Twitter though. I've noticed.
He's Andrew Anderson and Chris Prather to me are the two best manipulators of ball motion on tour. They can very easily change their hand to make the ball do whatever they want at any time. It's really
that should be part of what you guys talk about as the show goes on, because that was evident, but evident.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For sure.
But getting back to Tommy. So Tommy's in contention to not only make the show but lead the show with 2 games to go. And he bowls 202 in the 41st game going into position round. And now he's in position round. And he looked out of sorts. He looked uncomfortable for the first time all week. I don't remember what he bowled in the 42nd game, but it was around 170, 180. And I remember when the show started saying, I wonder if Tommy's got his legs back under him, because those last 2 games he bowled were nothing like the first 40 that he just bowled this week. And that first frame, he thumbs down and goes over the top of the ball so bad, and he throws one of the worst shots I've ever seen Tommy Jones throw on national television. And I don't remember if it went high or Brooklyn or whatever happened. And then the second thing I observed about Tommy was I have never, in the 20 years I've been watching Tommy, seen him change tape on TV. He is not like Norm Duke. He doesn't.
That's the one thing I noticed, dude, and I don't even watch him that much. He doesn't ever. This is right before that spare shot, I think, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, especially with the spare ball. Like, what happened? And that's the same Brunswick U-motion spare ball that he's been using for years.
Your thumb didn't swell up in the last minute and a half, 2 minutes. That's the weird thing. So something, sweat or lights, something.
He looked out of sorts for about half the game, and he looked really good for about half the game, especially when he started stringing him to catch up to Sean, and then Sean, I understand missing the spare. I get it, I get it. But Tommy missing that spare and giving it right back to him, and then
Sean being a noob, I guess you're saying, right?
Not a noob. Sean's a seasoned tour vet that just hasn't won much.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Comparatively speaking, that's what I mean. Like when you're saying, like, because they're both still the top bowlers in the world, they miss one spare out of every probably 500 one-pin spares.
Absolutely,
that's what I mean. That's so. I'm not trying to give credence to anybody one way or the other, but like when you're like, I don't, not that Sean wouldn't, but Tommy, of course, wouldn't. They never would.
Right, and they both did, and then that right lane got so funky, and if you didn't hit that slot down lane right around 7-8 at the right speed with the right amount of hand, it was a split, or you missed that. And gosh forbid they got it inside of target. It may not have hit the head pin. But just to watch Tommy and Sean in that match, it was extremely entertaining.
And they're using the same bowling ball, by the way. They're both using the same bowling ball, that purple hammer that everyone's been talking about.
Yeah, the only difference between those two balls, and here's something that lets you guys know how crazy my brain is the one that Sean was throwing was a Muskegon, Michigan pour. That's Brunswick and Ebonite putting their heads together and making that ball. In other words, that ball has been produced. You could tell because the label was vibrant white. Jesus. And if you looked at the one Tommy Jones was throwing, it was a very dull white, which indicates that it was scribed and it was a Hopkinsville, Kentucky Ebonite International pour, which are slightly softer than the new pours in Muskegon. So Tommy Jones' purple hammer, even though it's the same ball, actually hooks more than the one that Sean was throwing. When you go back and watch the show, you'll see the Brunswick hammer purple urethane that Sean was throwing read the lane much sooner, whereas Tommy's kind of curved a little bit more down lane.
But does that have anything to do with Sean being a two-hander, though?
No. If anything, you would think that Sean being two-handed, it would curve even more.
Throw it? Is that? Oh, that's what I thought. No, okay, all right.
I think that Tommy being a lifetime Ebonite staffer before the merger with Brunswick, I think Tommy is aware, just like I am, because I have a Hopkinsville, Kentucky purple hammer, and I have a new age hammer. And my Hopkinsville, Kentucky purple hammer hooks out of the fucking building. I'll be the first one to say it.
I think my girlfriend has those same items, but I don't know if they're talking bowling, but I swear to God, I saw packages with that same label. And one of them said hooks out of, it wasn't the building, it was something else, but it's a different story.
I work in transportation. I'm an hour and a half, 2 hours from Hopkinsville, and I used to move Ebonite balls out of Hopkinsville. So I had a lot of truckloads of those balls moving wherever they went. But yeah, we had a few bowling contracts, so that's kind of funny.
Hey, what happened in the 10th frame with the roll off with Tommy Jones? Was it announcer style or was it?
I don't know. Like I said, Tommy's so classy that you never really know. He did make a motion towards the booth, and Randy did apologize if it was him.
And it wasn't him. It would have been Dave Ryan if it was anybody. But I don't know that they can hear him. Maybe they're supposed to be soundproof. I don't know how that works.
I guess that's the only bugaboo I would have with the entire shop. If every other week, especially when they mic up these players, they're saying, "Randy, I can hear you." Like, why can't we put some thicker plexiglass around the booth or something?
And you think that the announcers would know that also.
Well,
it's not
back in the day. They were way off.
Big shot.
They were way off set. Like Schenkel and Bo were way down.
They were using monitors.
They were behind the players.
Yeah.
Now they're on the lane.
Yeah.
But either way, whether it did or it didn't, Tommy didn't throw that bad of a shot. that lane just got really fucked up.
Caught in the Speaking of classy, what did Tommy Jones say to Sean Maldonado right after the game? He was like, "Put that ball away. It ain't gonna work for you."
Absolutely, that's the way Tommy is.
Here's a guy who just lost, and he wants this guy. I mean, I guess you want to lose to the guy who wins, so.
And you take care of family. You know, that's Ebonite Hammer Track, Columbia, Brunswick.
There's so many good stories in there. There's so many good stories in there that nobody will ever know. That's
the greatest story now is the next match.
I would say maybe Tommy didn't like Rash, so maybe he was just trying to.
That's what I really wanted to see that match, but in the same respect, I'm kind of happy with the outcome of the second match. But again, I'm talking bowling tonight. I'm not talking personality. Actually, I'll get into personality real quick because I am going to mention something once we get to Don Barrett, and at least for all of our viewers, you guys understand the way that my brain operates. So when you talk to me, you know what I like and you know what I don't like. But I'll get there after this match. Sean Rash now bowls Maldonado in match 2, and Sean comes out like a bat out of hell. He looks great. Like, he looked so great. Those first 2 shots, that double, I have never seen Sean's hand so in control. Everything was in control. He just
effortless did it look? And they were high and tight. Like, they didn't. If they had the tracking, they didn't move from it. They were perfect.
Yep. He was aggressive but gentle at the same. It was really. I can't believe how. And then I can't believe how good he looked. And then he just started. First off, they were hard and definitely still in transition. But he started making bad shots. He started missing in. He started missing out. And he kept coming back saying, like Sean always fucking does, it's not me. I threw that good.
And that's the part of what we don't know. And the fan will never know.
Right. And like, well, no, bro. Go watch the show with the fucking lane oil and the tracer on the lane.
5 boards out wide.
And the speedometer.
It wasn't that far, but
your first shot looped. Your second one was shoved. Your third one was hard. Your fourth one was soft. Your fifth one was out the window.
There was one where he threw really hard that was visible on the lane because it was, you can almost, like when you see the guy throw the ball a few times, you know the rotation of the bowling ball. Right. And it usually you start to see the flip at this certain point. And I was like, oh my God, he freaking gunned it right through the break. And I don't think he left a 2.810, I think, on this one. Or maybe it was a 2.8. It might, either way, but
yes,
and he goes,
and then
I thought I threw that good. And I was like, holy shit, I'm an amateur at best, and I could see you just freaking gunned it through. Or he might have moved left and I couldn't tell. But that's the hard part about watching it too.
And you're absolutely right. But again, they were so difficult in that game. And look at Sean. Sean switches from the purple hammer to the white widow urethane, the Ghost.
And he did he move? He moved a little left, right? Or
he moved 2-3 arrows left.
Oh shit! Okay.
The
white ball, that white fucking
right.
Thing. Okay.
And then in the middle of the game, he moved like 4 fucking arrows left, and finally found some push and some curve. And he was like, "Okay, got it." Sean never got out of that track zone. He stayed there with that UFO alert, and Sean just bowled a bad television game. And that's what happened. That's legit what happened.
But real quick, so even in a 1-game match, the oil can get thrown around that much. Because, I mean, remember, these guys bowl 42 games to get to this point. And they're able to, repeat. But in 1 game, shit can go awry that much.
But in 1 or 2 shots, so like Johnny said, he threw 2 perfect fucking shots, in the first 2 frames. And then, for whatever reason, just fell off the fucking map and just didn't.
But I mean, explain that though, like a little bit. Like explain how I get it. The lights, it's there's a lot more heat and things like that. But like you bowl 42 games and you transition a little bit each time. But then all of a sudden it's match play and it's step ladder. And it's only 12 shots and the lanes can get broken up that much because of people throwing this in the same spot, I guess.
It's a multitude of things. Number one, they have an hour practice before they start. And all games are being contested on 2 lanes and everybody's right-handed.
Does that help or hurt Because does that
it hurts?
swirl?
It hurts.
All of it. Okay.
Because eventually, that's why they always say being the tournament leader is a blessing and a fucking sin at the same time. Because by the time it gets to the title match, you're not bowling on what
you don't know what the hell you're even bowling on at that point.
Yeah.
Ideally, you want to be third or second.
Right.
Because if you win that first match or that second match, now you're freewheeling it. You already know what the lanes are doing.
And you transition with it, and you can carry down, or you can at least carry with the transition.
Right. Exactly. But what happens is the number one thing that dictates what happens with changing conditions is topography, the actual surface of the lane. So Riviera lanes notoriously, first off, over the course of a 42-game bowling tournament, as you redress the lanes with the same pattern and you have the best bowlers in the world playing generally the same zone, every day of a tournament, the back ends get a little bit tighter. Riviera Lanes was built in like 1950 on a hill in Akron, Ohio that slopes. So the way that it's safe to say that the earth has shifted a little bit under this building that's been there for 70 years, right? So the lanes are already kind of warped in some respect, especially the topography from all the years of wear and tear, especially in the main track area, which is the second arrow on the right side of the lane. So all those 2-8-10s and where the ball looks like it wants to come up the hill and change direction, it can't do it because topography and like earth won't allow it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's almost like following its own rut, even though the pattern won't dictate it. It's stuck in like a groove, and it's just late. It's never going to catch up and it's going to be behind the whole time. I would feel
exactly. So that leads into exactly what I said after Sean beats Rash 212, 187 in game 2. I remember sitting on this couch. I was on the phone with somebody, and I said, now, because what's happening with how sloppy they are, 2 things can be done to win this bowling tournament. You either need somebody who makes the ball roll at their toe and completely rolls out like vintage Amleto Monticelli from 1993, or you need to slow curve the entire lane so there is no such thing as a hang spot.
Like Prather was
who
trying
are the
to
two
do.
best people in the world are the 2 things I just said, Dom Barrett and Chris Prather. Chris Prather is really good at slow hooking it around it, and Dom's really good at making it hook at his toe if he wants to. And that is exactly
so you had the matchup you wanted.
What happened.
You know, Walter Ray could throw the rollout too. Matter of fact, in your dad's 300 game, he was throwing that rollout a bit too, and that's when your dad knew that he would get tapped once or twice. That's freaking wild too.
So why was Sean? Why was Sean making excuses then? Why?
I don't know. It's just in Sean's nature. But anyway, real quick, Dom Barrett's 279 in the semifinal match against
Rob's trying to start shit.
I am.
Sean's 201. I don't want to drag it out too long. I know we've been here for almost 90 minutes already, but I do have to say one thing, and I'll tie it in with Sean. Dom Barrett bowls 279 against Sean Maldonado, throwing the new Columbia speed. And then he gets into the title match, and Prather just has a menagerie of fucking bad breaks. Solid 9s, swishing 7s, ring 10s, the whole shebang. Misses a spare, which is very uncharacteristic. Manages to bowl 189. Dom bowls 210. Visibly nervous for the first time I've ever seen on television. Dom looked somewhat nervous as he was closing that match out. And the first thing that Dom wants to do when he knows it's out of the wood before he bowls is FaceTime his wife. And they speak about Dom on that show, not to mention how classy he was on that entire show.
Yep.
All the people that he thanked, all the things that he did. The thing that he did with his wife, to me, is the sexiest thing a man could ever fucking do. And he said flat out in his interviews, the money is just a reward for the process. I want that title. That's all I want. That's all I think about. Sean Resch, on the same show that he's high-fiving with the high school team that's there watching him, says, I'm here to prove everybody wrong. That's the difference between those 2 brains to me. That's why Dom completing the Triple Crown and being the 8th bowler to join that elite group, which includes my dad, not only the way that he presented himself, but the way he acted on that show, during it and after it, that's why Dom has Brunswick on his chest. And I'll be the fucking first one to say it out loud. That's a true fucking class act, what he did. and not knocking Chris Prather. I've known Chris Prather since he was living in Illinois. He's very close with my good friend Eric Schmidt. Chris Prather is one of the best talents I've ever seen. And I didn't expect Chris to bowl the game that he bowled. I expected Chris to bowl 260 that game. I thought that was going to be a 260, 240 game, especially with how good Chris looked throughout the entire tournament.
Yeah, so Chris executed it was one of those things where the guy actually executed the shots, and it was almost like bad geometry at times. Because it wasn't like he wasn't in the pocket. It was, you see a weak hit, things like that, but sometimes it is a little bit of luck, Not that he would have won without it, because Dom bowled. They both took the worst conditions possible and still managed to look like professionals on TV.
Absolutely,
which is probably the hardest thing to do. When imagine the stimp meter being like 2, and you got to make a freaking downhill 3-foot slider. Nobody's gonna make that putt.
No chance.
And
no chance.
Yet they're on this freaking wacky sheet of ice and trying to make this ball do what it's supposed to and manipulating it. And that's the damnedest thing. They don't talk about that. Like when you said how Chris Prather manipulates the ball, I was like, holy shit, I just remembered how slow he was throwing it and how he was trying to work the lane and hook around this wacky spot. I wouldn't have known that at the time, which I didn't until you said it.
Yep.
I'm sorry to fucking yell. God damn it.
It was just, and overall, I think the production of the show was great. I thought Randy and Dave did an absolutely awesome job in the booth. They actually showed the score sheet more often.
Dave Ryan holds Randy Peterson down a little bit, I feel like. Because when it's with Rob, they start to do Anchorman shit. And I love Anchorman, but, we're still trying to watch a fucking
I agree.
Sport,
Yep. They're a better combo because they stick with what they're actually broadcasting.
Yeah,
like Jim Nance and freaking Tony Romo aren't doing Jim Carrey jokes or Harry Carey jokes when fucking Roethlisberger's running around for his life.
Tony tries to be funny, but he's a fucking dipshit. So I mean, there's that.
Who's that?
Tony. Tony tries to make fucking stupid dad jokes.
But he'll do freaking 20 awesome things in a row about the play that's coming up.
Yeah,
and then change something funny. Like they kind of lose us. Where Dave Ryan definitely holds, and I think JP had said earlier that a couple shows ago that Dave Ryan doesn't exactly know bowling, but he seems to be a professional broadcaster.
That's right.
So he knows to hold it down in the niche at least.
I've watched Dave Ryan commentate ping pong, and he's good at that.
Well, he's fantastic. Yeah,
he's a good commentator. Yeah. He's very good at his job.
Yeah,
for sure.
So definitely. he does his studies, and at least he knows enough about bowling now. It's been 20 years he's been doing it off and on.
Absolutely.
But he definitely wrangles Randy Peterson in. So just there's a little more bowling and a lot less jokes. I don't mind jokes. We all love jokes.
No, I enjoyed it more, though, honestly. I enjoyed those two more. So congratulations, obviously, to Dom Barrett. First UK-born player to ever complete the Triple Crown, too. So
it sure is.
That's a huge accomplishment. And you're right. He showed absolute class during the entire thing. And I do love the fact that he has wife on FaceTime and didn't talk to anybody or celebrate with anybody except her first.
He even said, I need a minute. Before I hoist the trophy, I'm going to go thank my ball reps. I'm going to go, he actually said, I need a minute. This is my moment. Let me take care of who needs to be taken care of first, and then I'll address the world. And then he addressed the world perfectly. He just did everything right. He did everything right.
Absolutely perfect.
It was awesome.
We're going to wrap up the show here, but up next is David Small's Kokomo Championship.
Yes, sir. That starts tomorrow
at Heritage Lanes in Kokomo, Indiana. What's the history of this tournament? I know we had the best of the best a few weeks ago.
I know Dave Small is a fantastic bowling center proprietor. I'm assuming he's merging with the PBA and doing some kind of sponsorship to get X amount of events in his bowling centers. But I don't really know much about the Kokomo Open other than Don Johnson being the Kokomo kid from Indiana.
I know his brother Biggie. That's the only guy I know.
Yeah.
I always get up for Biggie.
But yeah, definitely looking forward to more bowling. It's been a good year of bowling so far. Looking forward to this. And then, shortly after that, we're coming up to the, we got the Masters coming up pretty soon too, don't we?
Yeah.
Storm Cup, Lubbock, World Series, the Roth Holman doubles, a lot of good stuff on the way.
So I'm looking forward to this. Monday starts Jesus Christ, let me start it over. Monday is the Squad Pro Tour qualifier. They bowl 6 games. Then they have a practice session. Tuesday is qualifying round 1, and it goes on from there. So, look, the best players in the world are usually right around the cut. Belmo is bowling out of his mind, and just missed the last couple of cuts. But I mean, he's doing really, really well. What do you expect out of Belmo for the rest of this year? Do you see him dialing it in and just dominating?
No, I expect Belmo to just win everything.
Right, we always do, right?
he's so good at stupid, dude. He's so good at stupid.
How great is that? Like, we have an analyst who knows like so much about bowling, and like he could pick apart anybody's game. And you say, "What do you think about Belmo?"
You ever see the movie Space Jam? You ever see the movie Space Jam?
Yeah.
Who hasn't?
Yeah, right.
Do you remember when Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, and Bill Murray are playing a round of golf?
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Murray says, "Larry's not white. Larry's clear." That's how I feel about Belmo.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's just different than everybody.
But Belmo didn't talk the shit that Larry Legend never did. However, he doesn't have to. He kills them with a smile and then stomps on their throat with his freaking bowling shoe and says, "Sorry, guy. I was the two-hander. I got you."
Is Belmo the equivalent of Tiger?
Hands down.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. Belmo is the equivalent of
it's more than that because he changed the game now. Like that's
what I'm saying. Like Tiger fucking
for instance,
Tiger dominated.
If you ask somebody who's the greatest greatest football player of all time, some people will say Johnny, or greatest quarterback. Some people will say Johnny Unitas. Some people will say Brett Favre. Some people will say Tom Brady. Some people will say Peyton. Whatever. If you ask people who is the greatest basketball player of all time, some people will say Michael Jordan. Some people will say LeBron James. Right. Everybody has, from this era, you can't compare generations and blah, blah, blah.
There's always 2 or 3, but with bowling, it seems to be Belmo.
Here's bowling. If Jason Belmonte did what he did when Mark Roth was the cranker on tour, who would be better?
Belmo.
Yeah.
Today, who's better than Belmo?
It's true.
So that's what I'm saying. Like when he says who's better, Tiger, Belmo did something totally different. I almost feel like when they started going from underhand to overhand pitching in baseball in the 1800s or something like that. Like
exactly.
It's something like who's the first overhand pitcher, and that's what Belmo did as far as revolutionizing. And that's why, your dad just a few months ago said in 10 years it's going to be 5% one-hander. I don't know if he said it like that. He said probably 20% one-handers.
It's already happening.
Yeah,
but that already means
9 of the top 10 boys at the junior national finals this year were two-handed.
Mm-hmm.
There was only one traditional stylist in the top 10 for the juniors. What does that tell you? Like we've spoken on past shows. Anyway, but yeah, I think Jason,
he's better and he did it differently.
Different generations will say Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus were the best. Tiger Woods is the best. I'm sorry, guys. Tiger Woods is a better golfer than Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer.
He's a better athlete than them, is what it is.
He's just better.
His durability was better for sure.
I'm just glad
Jason is just better than everybody else. I mean, I don't know if Jason has as much natural raw talent as a Pete Weber or as much deadly aim as a Walter Ray, but I know that Jason Belmonte will kick the shit out of both of them in any generation.
He knocks more pins down than everybody else.
Yeah, that's all you got to do. Yeah.
He's made 57% of the TV shows on the majors that he has bowled. Do you know what that fucking means?
Bring an average. Okay, that's of the majors, 57%.
But majors. He's my age. He has 4 more majors than the second best in the world, and that's fucking Pete Weber. Pete Weber and fucking Earl Anthony and Mike Albee. They got shit on Belmo when it comes to majors, not to mention the shows that Belmo doesn't win that are majors, he's still on the show.
So is there any math that shows the percentage? Like you said, it's 50% of him making the TV show on majors. Like, is there any math that shows what the other average is for Pete or for even Earl Anthony? Or because Earl Anthony, the whole point about Walter and Earl Anthony was Earl had a
Walter Ray Williams Jr. Walter Ray Williams Jr. This is according to Larry Lickstein, longtime bowler, PBA Tour ball driller, legend in the game. Walter Ray wins 4% of the events that he has entered. Walter Ray.
Wow.
Walter Ray's goal in his PBA life.
He's pretty much the best. They voted him the second best bowler in the history of this entire.
His goal was to have more wins than seconds, Walter. Walter's got 47 wins and he's got 51 seconds on the national tour.
Right.
That was his goal. Jason Belmonte bowls 10 majors. He makes the show on 6 of them.
So when
that's
they do
unheard of.
When they do this ranking of where did he rank in that top 50?
He wasn't out there yet. Wasn't out here yet.
Come on, it was. I thought it was only.
He won the in Babylon for his first title in like 2008. They put out that thing that year.
Okay. So he would
or
have
they put it out in right around that time.
All right, that's another fun topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that book.
Because now, I'd love to you're watching history. Like the history's being changed as we speak.
Yeah, it is.
There's certain people that still belong there, and there are certain people that should have a higher number in there. For instance, I think Chris Barnes was ranked like 24th. My dad was 16th. I think if you redid it now, I think you should put Chris Barnes in like 11th or 10th. And I think maybe you move my dad to like 20th. Tommy Jones should be somewhere in the top 15. Mika Koivuniemi should be somewhere in the top 15. They're both in the 20s or 30s. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of movement that should go in there. Jason Belmonte certainly has to replace whoever was 50th and then put him where he belongs. You know what I mean? So
that makes sense too. It's only a 50-year history, so I get it. That does make sense. You know, we're taking it like Rob did, you know, way back when. Like we're watching these guys as we were already kids, so they're adults and even getting older. But that's true. It really is.
I mean, I'm
48 years old, so the PBA Tour started only a couple years before.
Do you guys even know who Jimmy? Do you guys even know who Jimmy Smith is?
Jimmy Smith for the UFC. No, that's Anthony Smith.
Jimmy Smith had a lifetime average of 201. From 1897 to 1930. That was with wooden and rubber bowling balls with a 2-finger grip, middle finger and thumb only, no such thing as lanes or lane maintenance or oil or shit like that.
So he could have been the best bowler if
Jimmy Smith averaged 201 total aggregate average for almost 30 years, like during Prohibition.
Wow.
That's, you want to talk about the greatest bowler that nobody fucking knows, it's Jimmy Smith. But you can't compare that now. I mean, the sport, yes, was legitimized in 1895, but still, you can't. I mean, if you brought the 50 greatest bowlers in the world right now and said, okay, bowl on this and go average 200, I don't know if they could because the technology is too far advanced now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's a cool stat. That's obviously you're a historian, but that's something I never knew. But that's a good point. Like, you know, back in the day, it's almost like Wilt Chamberlain. Like, who the fuck was going to stop Wilt Chamberlain? He could be the greatest basketball player of his fucking generation because nobody else could fucking touch him. He's scoring 100 points a game. You know what I mean? Like
a lot of women touched him.
I remember asking my dad, saying, "Has anybody ever scored 100 points in a game in the NBA?" He said, "Yeah, Wilt Chamberlain."
Yeah,
fuck, he's the best. That's what I thought when I was a kid.
Right. You know, but people thought Bill Russell was the best. I mean, it's all subjective. I mean, I still think Jordan's the greatest fucking player ever. But I mean,
But my reason for believing Belmo is the best now is the talent pool out there is so good. I mean, those guys are so good.
Yeah.
I mean, EJ Tackett, for fuck's sake, is one of these kids are so good. They're so good.
You know,
and Belmo is that much better.
If it wasn't for Belmo, like you almost think about it. Like I think about so one of my favorite motocross riders was Kevin Windham. And the guy was smooth as silk. Shut up. And if it wasn't for Jeremy McGrath, who was the king of Supercross, and if it wasn't for Ricky Carmichael and Chad Reed, you know, Kevin Windham would have been the greatest motocross rider ever. The guy was badass. He did everything right on the motorcycle, and yet had somebody in his way.
No, you're
whoever's still listening, go look up Kevin Windham. We call him we call him K-Dub number 14 because he's my guy.
Related to Barry Windham.
That's that real wrestling stuff. We don't do that.
So, Johnny, let me ask you this: with the other two-handed pros, how come they haven't got to the level that Belmo is? Like, he just does it that much better than the other guys?
They are. They just don't have the time yet, though. But hold on, wait, no, they haven't had the time yet. I don't think. Like Simonson and
that's the one youngest to ever win 3 majors. Anthony Simonson, in my eyes, is the best bowler in the world right now. If Belmo didn't exist, but again, Belmo is clear. He's in a fucking world all by himself.
He's in the zone, bro. He's chill.
He's in a world all by himself.
Yeah.
Everybody else lives in Belmo's world.
I got something real quick, man. So Belmo said he bowled two-handed because he couldn't hold the bowling ball. But the only other guy I ever saw was Osku. Now, did he bowl from birth that way, or because everybody else that I know learned from Belmo?
Osku was actually the first one that people got to see the two-handed style. Osku was first. Believe it or not.
We talked, but he'd been doing it from birth. He didn't see it.
I believe so. I don't know 100%.
Okay. So then
has Belmo. So has Belmo.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So I almost anybody else. I don't know that anybody else did it until they saw Belmo or Osku.
Yeah, and right? I get it. You're right. Yeah.
So is there a time frame of like they bowled for the first 15 years of their life, and then said, "Oh my God, I'm 15 years old. Look at this guy doing it. I'm going to try it this way."
Yeah. It's a learning curve, obviously. It's a big change.
So maybe that's probably why the next crop is just they haven't had the time yet, I feel like. So Osku did it also the same way. Do they have like some weird bond? Is there like a documentary or anything like that? Like what the fuck, man?
No, they're both great people. They're both completely different.
Two-handed Eskimo brothers.
But how ironic that in the same year and a half that they both make a tour fucking appearance and they're doing it two-handed.
Yeah, it was. I'll tell you what, man. It made me feel better about taking my thumb out.
It didn't gain traction with Osku though. It gained traction with Belmo because he's the guy that started fucking mowing shit down.
Mowing, and people follow who's mowing them down.
The guy who wins, basically.
Are we done?
What do you think, Rob?
Good job, Rob. What a segue, buddy. We were talking about Kevin Wyndham.
Nice show tonight. Good show.
It was a good show. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening to you guys talk for 60 minutes straight without taking a breath.
You should have not asked me about Babylon. It was your fault.
Just fucking with
it was me.
No, it was Ocho. No, it's all Ocho's fault. Ocho.
It was me. I went from it was the plastic ball tournament that he missed after you guys were talking about how, and I was all about it because he's the guy that doesn't look at the damn arrows because I don't either. I look at the foul line so I don't walk over it, and I was like, oh, there you go. Maybe I can do it.
Maybe you should try it.
No,
that's what I do.
Well, I look at the arrows.
Wes Malott and Liz Johnson both do the same thing, and to this day, it's what I do.
Wes Malott looks down at the foul line.
Yeah, but where do his eyes start?
Oh, I don't fucking know.
Oh,
go watch. Yeah, go watch any show that he's on. They start at the break point, and every step he takes, he draws the imaginary line of the ball path back to the foul line. And every step he takes, his eyes get closer to the foul line because he's legit imagining the path of the ball in reverse.
Never mind, we're not alike.
That's what I do. When people ask me what I'm looking at, I'm not really sure. I know where I wanted to be at 40 feet. I don't know where I'm hitting at the arrows.
That's what I learned. 40 feet. I learned from your dad what's called area bowling. I'm like, I just got to bring my arm up this way. And he's like, oh, so you're area bowling. And I was like,
yeah.
Yep. I don't know. I guess
find the zone. Find the slot. Yeah.
Oh, you should just act like you know it all when people ask you questions. Like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted to fucking do. But you're like,
I love how much you dumb down.
Yeah, but I bring the shit.
You've been averaging 250 for 10 years.
Yeah.
And you try and dummy it down just to make us feel good.
Yep.
It's to help the amateurs, man. They don't have to know how good I am. I'm good at everything. I fucking ride motocross, for Christ's sakes.
Speaking of amateurs, Ocho, what's your Twitter handle?
I don't know.
Neither do I, but I think I have one now.
You do. Ocho's on Twitter at the DROcho. Johnny is finally on Twitter at JP Jr. 07. That's at
JP Jr. 07.
That's right.
I shot 678 last week, by the way.
Yeah, good for you. You can follow me
so did I.
With a 164 in the first game.
So did I. Rob is shutting us up again. We're really off the handle tonight. We should be quiet for a minute.
164, and then I made a ball change.
You can follow me at RadRob Gaming on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also a Twitch gaming streamer, twitch.tv/RadRobGaming, streaming every Tuesday night and Saturday night, 6 p.m. Central, Check out all my other podcasts here on the Rad Rob Radio Network. RTW Main Event, which I do with Ocho. It's the show that he hates.
He hates when I make a ball change, so I make a ball change, shoot 248, and then shoot 266.
RTW Rewind, The Dork Side of the Ring, Uncanceled with Drake Wirtz, Brad Shepard Unleashed. Many shows, including this one, all here on the Rad Rob Radio Network. Guys, another great show. Ocho, you still suck. Johnny, I'm glad you sound amazing tonight. I didn't want to mention this earlier, but you have such a silky smooth voice, and you're also a smoker, so you got that little deep little, you just real smooth. And you're also
sound awesome with that tracheotomy. Oh, he's muted.
He's muted. You're muted, Johnny, so I'm just going to talk over you. But
sorry, what I was trying to say was, and it's all thanks to you sending me this awesome mic, Rad Rob. I sincerely appreciate it.
You should say thanks to you.
Thanks. Funk.
Also has a lot to do with.
And then when that tracheotomy comes out, you're going to sound even better, man. Hell yeah.
Yep, that's right.
I am waiting at the Rad Rob microphone.
That's really nice of you. Thanks.
Nothing but love on the Straight Up 5 podcast.
Sounds like it. Unequivocally don't hate this show, Chain Whips.
Happy birthday to Johnny Petraglia Sr., turning 75 this week. We're doing a tribute show, which will already be done before this comes out. But I'm going to also transform that into audio version, which will drop on Saturday. So as we speak, it's tomorrow as we're recording. But happy birthday to the legend, the Godfather, Johnny Petraglia Sr.
Absolutely. As soon as we get off, I'm actually going to call him and find out what time we're going to go live. So,
well, I'm not getting off till we get off, so.
SchwankaStyles.com.
You're fucking disgusting. You guys be professional.
We're normal. Even Kelly liked that one. She's laughing.
We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Straight Up 5. If you would like to send your questions into Johnny Jr., send us an email at straightup5@gmail.com. That's straight up FIVE@gmail.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Straight Up 5 right here on the Rad Rob Radio Network.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.